So where did Trump get the information that he supposedly leaked to the Russians? Oh, he got it from the Israelis. By the way, officially Roseanne coming back to ABC, and they found a way to put both Beckys in the show. You're going to hear about that. And the Boston Celtics have won the NBA draft lottery. So they are the number one pick, or have the number one pick in the season. We'll talk about who they may pick coming up in just a bit with all the Greek stories we talked about yesterday as part of our conversations. This is the Daily Recap Podcast for all the conversations we had yesterday. That was the 16th of May, making today May 17th, 2017. And welcome to the podcast. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne, the moderator of the conversations that we have originating from the website thisisaconversation.com. A great website. I say that myself because I made it myself. And it is a place where we put out some of the best conversations, the best topics, the best issues that are out there for the world to conversate on, the world to talk about, and you as part of the world talk about them. We're so glad to have you as part of all the discussion via social media. On Facebook, you can find us at thisisaconversation.com. Twitter, we are at th_conversation, and the main website, as we already said, is thisisaconversation.com. Make sure you stop by the website for many great features, including info on this week's sponsors, Cloud9 Living. Cloud9 Living is a marketplace where you can buy all the things you want to knock off your bucket list. Hot air balloons, they have places to do that. For driving a race car, things to do that. Great excursions and vacations into the wild or the not so wild. They have places set up. You go to Cloud9 Living, and if it's something that you want to do that's exotic or maybe just really, really cool, they probably have it there. And if you go to our website and click on the link there, we have a deal that gets you 10% off gift certificates for you or yourself. So if you have a friend who wants to knock a couple things off their bucket list, you can send them a gift card and they can take care of it on their own time. Just that simple. Let's go to thisisaconversations.com/sponsors for more information about this sponsor, Cloud9 Living, and other sponsors to our program. Now, let's get into yesterday's conversations. Yesterday was the 16th of May. And by the way, a little bit of craziness happened on yesterday. We went through a whole day full of stuff, and I had a chance to be a part of the Full Circle podcast. So if you get a chance to listen to that podcast, the upcoming episode will be coming out in about a week or so. It was on Donald Trump's 100 days after. I was on a couple days into Donald Trump's first 100 days, where I gave a statement that basically said, I believe Donald Trump may not be the best for this country, but there's too many people in this country between him and everything else to keep him from doing anything relatively dumb. And then 100 days in, 118 days or so in, he has proven me wrong essentially every single day. So didn't get much conversation in on the topic because it got really heated and a lot of talk about erectile dysfunction and stuff like that. They were comparing Clinton's stuff to Trump stuff, so that's where that all came from. So if you look for the Full Circle podcast, search for it online. We'll probably have some links to it when it actually gets this one gets released within about a couple days or so. Now back to the headlines from yesterday. Starting off with our first line for the day was a story that didn't get a lot of national attention. I didn't think I saw it much anywhere on the national news and American news. I did see it on the international news, but I did actually hear a conversation about it when I went to lunch at the pizza parlor yesterday. So some people were talking about it just in general. And it was the investigation claims of the Sean Rich death. Of course, Seth Rich. Seth Rich was a DNC staffer who is implicated in leaking to WikiLeaks. He's a man who they had ties to WikiLeaks and may have leaked some of the documents to the WikiLeaks from the DNC, including a lot of Hillary Clinton stuff. He was found dead fairly soon after they believed he was the man, and his murder investigation has been asked to be put to a halt. So all that stuff sounds really, really, really suspicious. We found that he really does have some links to WikiLeaks, and so it may make that investigation get a bit larger once we're done with all the Trump stuff, of course. Now, Yahoo is set to buy back $3 billion worth of shares of its stock to provide some liquidity to stockholders who are looking to sell them. Now, that sounds weird, but they're out there trying to buy back some of the just laying around stock for the most cases, because as the stock prices is expected to rise closer and closer to its official sale to Verizon, more people will be looking to cash out of Yahoo before the big thing happens. So in order to offer up more cash and more stock, they're buying back as much stock as possible so that their stock will be a bit more worthy, have a bit more worth, more bite to it as people are then cashing out before the big deal happens. So that happens pretty often in business where something is about to go down. The company starts buying back all the kind of randomest shares on the outlining shares of stock so that it gets a big look at itself. Its worth has a greater worth because there's less stock floating around. And then people can kind of sell off the chunks there and make a little extra money. Now, a story out of The Atlantic, which had a lot of people posting on social media and in tears about it's about servitude, about being a slave in modern times. It's called My Family Slave, and it was written by a person who had a literal slave, a person that was given to their family to do all the things that need to be done. They help raise the kids. They help take care of the house and do cooking and cleaning and whatnot. This was a woman who lived with the person. The man who wrote the story died earlier this year. But in the story, he basically knew about this woman who lived in his house, and it wasn't until he was 11 years old that he realized this woman is not a housekeeper. She's not her job. Her existence is to live as a slave and do as my family says. It was a very touching story. Look for The Atlantic. It's probably still all over the place. You'll probably still see plenty of links for it, people tweeting about it and chatting about it for the next couple of days. Now, we talked about Donald Trump and his meeting with the Russians that was official but not officially seen by Americans. And then, of course, pictures came out from the Russian media because they had a Russian guy in there. And we found out from sources inside of the room that President Trump passed on some highly classified, highly sensitive information to the Russians, and that it wasn't actually our knowledge to pass on. It was something we got from someone else. More sources tell us that that source is the Israeli intelligence agencies. So what does that mean? That means Israel gave us some intelligence to help keep our planes safe. And we shared it with the Russians because we want the Russians to step up their game in Syria specifically so that they can stay safe and help us with the ISIS problem there. However, Russia has very good ties to Iran, who has pledged to wipe Israel off the earth. And Russia basically shares what they want to with Iran. And they also share things with Syria, not the ISIS Syria. That be Bashar Assad. So we essentially have traded off the information we got from the Israelis, who probably have a guy who was, snuck into ISIS, infiltrated ISIS to get this information out to then go back and figure out who he is so that the Syrians or the Iranians or maybe even the Russians can just snuff him out when they feel like it, because that's what we do. More on that in just a bit, because the story, of course, gets crazier and crazier. Now, Biz Stone, who you remember being famous from Twitter and pretty much nothing else if you're not a tech guy, he's rejoining a company. He had a company called Jelly, which I'm not even going to explain to what it is because it's not worth the time. He sold that to Pinterest, and so he now has another big fat bank of cash to live off of. He's coming back to Twitter to focus on the corporate culture. Biz Stone was essentially the face of Twitter when it became what it was as the big platform for tweeting and telling people what's going on. And of course, he sold some stuff off and went away to do his own thing. Now that he's rich again, probably, he's going to come back and fix his baby. A lot of folks coming back to fix the baby that is Twitter. Twitter becoming something that's more and more ingrained into our system. Not quite a utility such as a telephone system, but it is something that's gotten so popular and used by so many people that it going away would affect some commerce. Some people make their money on various Twitter things. And B, just would really affect the way of life. We would find other social media networks to live on, but it would take a while to kind of gather the followings that people have gained so far and the Twitter exposure. Donald Trump is one example there. You don't see him on Instagram or Snapchat. You see him on the Twitter. Now, the official return of Roseanne is here. ABC had his upfronts, and we have found out that Roseanne is on the schedule for the upcoming season. And guess what is also planned for Roseanne this season? 2 Beckys. Yes, original Becky and replacement Becky will both be on the show. In fact, all the main characters of the family have signed up for the show. So you'll have the full Connor family, even Dan, who essentially died, but we'll figure that part out in some way. But we'll have the full Connor family, including the original Becky, playing Becky. Now, what happens with New Becky? New Becky plays some other undisclosed character on the show. The show hasn't said exactly who she is, but she will be a regular cast member and get a fat paycheck from the new revival of Roseanne, except she won't be Becky. And how they'll address the fact that Becky is Becky, well, I guess we'll just have to see. A software glitch yesterday took out many Starbucks payment systems across the world. Something in the Starbucks POS system went hiccup, and in so many places could do nothing but take cash and hand over cash directly. You couldn't use Square, couldn't use an app, couldn't use a credit card. Something in the POS system went down. It was I would say quickly fixed over a matter of hours, but this was a worldwide issue since everything is connected these days, and Starbucks, based on being able to pay via apps and various online things, have a connection to the cloud that makes these things happen. Something went wrong yesterday. It got fixed. Okay, Comey. Let's go back to Comey. Not quite done with the Trump stuff yet because there is still more to come. But yesterday's breaking news, which got trumped by this morning's breaking news, which you really want to hear, is that former FBI Director James Comey actually wrote a memo about his meetings with Donald Trump and the fact that Trump asked him to, quote unquote, end the Flynn investigation. In fact, he actually asked him to, quote, make it go away, sort of in one of those lingo things. The main part we get is from a documentation that we haven't seen yet, but sources have seen, and it will probably be subpoenaed by the Congress for their investigations, that during a meeting that had both the Attorney General and the Vice President involved with Trump and Comey, those two were asked to leave. That's the Attorney General and the Vice President asked to leave. And then Trump had his conversation with Comey. And in fact, when he kind of asked him to kind of overlook this whole investigation into Michael Flynn because, he's a good guy. And there's a document of that saying it. The White House is saying not so true. But this is going to bring back the whole tapes story. Are there tapes? Who's got tapes? What kind of tapes are going on? Because apparently Comey's got memos. We'll see if Trump has tapes. Now, White House counselor Kellyanne Conway went on a rampage yesterday as she struck back against some criticism from Morning Joe. And Morning Joe, we're speaking of the particular Morning Joe being Joe Scarborough and his co-host and fiance, Mika Brzezinski. They said some pretty not nice things about Ms. Conway the other day, essentially saying that during the campaign, she had some off-air comments about not being so thrilled about working for Donald Trump and being his spokesperson. And so now that she's disappeared and was brought back, she's actually officially been banned from their program because they won't let her on to talk about stuff because she talks like crazy stuff. But they are saying, that's Joe and Mika, are saying that she wasn't liking her job and she just didn't like really representing Trump. Conway says she's pleased to like her job. She's good for working for Trump, and she's happy with what she's doing. And Mika and Joe are just trying to grab some ratings for a struggling program. You may have heard that tactic before. Well, that's how it goes right now. Kellyanne Conway says she is cool what's going on, while Mika and Joe are like, yeah, she's not so happy with what she's got going on. The Boston Celtics won the 2017 NBA Draft Lottery, which means they are up for the first pick in this upcoming draft coming up in months, middle summer. This makes an interesting scenario because the draft was created to allow bad teams to get better by giving them the better chance of getting the better new players coming out of college, coming into the pros. Now, this worked out in a very famous fashion as people believe it's rigged because of the whole Patrick Ewing going to the Knicks things way back when. And this is another situation where people are kind of thinking, the Celtics had the best chance of getting the number one pick. They had a 25% chance of getting that first ping pong ball based on some trades they had with the Nets a couple of years ago, giving them so many rights to so many picks. So essentially, it was probably one of the Nets picks that turned into the Celtics pick. The really interesting thing on this one is this is going to not help them so much get better, but get that much better. It has the potential to turn this into a superstar team for the Celtics. The Celtics still have a chance to win the NBA championship this year. They are right now getting ready to start tonight a series with the Cavaliers in Cleveland to see who's going to be the Eastern contender for the championship title. We'll see how that works out. By the way, Golden State up 2-0 on the Spurs, just in case you were worried. The Celtics currently have one of the most exciting players in the league right now. His name is Isaiah Thomas, not not related to the other Isaiah Thomas, but named after him and has a pretty solid game on his own. He is helping to lead the Celtics in what's been a storied season and, of course, a chance to take on the big behemoth in the East, which is the Cleveland Cavaliers, to face off on whoever will win in the West eventually. They have a chance to select someone who can help their team get that much better, that much quicker. And so far, one of the biggest mock drafts has Jason Tatum of Duke going to the Celtics as the first pick. They also have the Lakers, who pick number 2, taking Alonzo Ball. You may have heard of that guy, or maybe his dad just being a jerk, from UCLA. And Markelle Fultz of Washington for the point guard from there. So we'll see exactly how things go when draft day happens coming up in a few months. The Social Security Administration released the top 20 baby names of 2016, and yes, they released this last week, and I just now got a chance to see it, and it was just kind of a randomish thing. I was working on another project where I was needing some names for some characters I was coming up with, and I went to look for baby names and saw the story pop up. So yes, I am late in the deal. You can go through and coo and caw and see over all the great names that are there. One name that has gotten really, really unpopular, Caitlyn. You can work that one out on your own. Pictures of Avril Lavigne have surfaced of her in the studio working on another album. So whether you're looking for another Avril Lavigne album or not, one is apparently on its way. It also sort of works out the rumors, or actually stretches out the rumors, that she still died 10 years ago and was replaced by a clone named Melissa. Now, that whole story is just weird, insane, bonkers, bananas, so you can rehash that one on your own. But apparently pictures of Avril Lavigne doing some work were not enough to dispel the rumors that she was not actually Avril Lavigne. You can work that one out as well. Early this morning, we had 2 tweets so far before I got a chance to get on the mic. The first tweet for the day, and it's actually happened. It has actually happened. That sounded weird. Whistleblower Chelsea Manning, formerly Bradley Manning, has been released from jail. He was originally sentenced to a 35-year sentence, and she has been released after 7 years, or working on the she part. Of course, President Obama commuted the sentence at the end of his term, making this a moot point. Now, Chelsea Manning is still technically in the Army and will technically have all the rights and privileges other than being paid as a private in the Army until her court-martial goes through. If that sounds weird to you, trust me, it sounds weird to me coming out of my mouth and into my own ears. But Chelsea Manning officially released from jail a few hours after I actually posted this online. So it's now official. Chelsea Manning is technically free, now dealing with the whole court-martial thing and what to do next. And the oddest story of the day, which hadn't quite taken over everything, but it probably will get sucked into the whole big Trump thing. Okay, so we talked earlier about the tweet about the Russians. Of course, Trump met with the Russians in the White House. Trump gave the Russians some sensitive information that was provided to us and Trump by the Israelis. We know all these things from reports from reporters who got inside people telling us what's going on, not because there was an official record, because there were no American journalists allowed into the whole situation. But there were Russian journalists allowed in the situation, which is why we know pictures exist and all those things. We know exactly who was in, including a Russian officer who was essentially known as a spy, a part of the whole. He's a whole big part of the conspiracy theory collusion thing. President Putin, in a press conference earlier today, or later yesterday, if you want to call it, because it's in Russia, gave a conference, and someone asked him about this issue. And while the translation made it a little weird, essentially what he said is that Russia was not given any information by the president. The president did not send off any sensitive information. And if the Americans needed a recording to prove it, Putin would be happy to provide it, which would suggest that somebody brought in a tape recorder, tapes, or an iPhone or some sort of recording device to record the actual interchange. Now, after some back and forth, the Russian press ministry clarified it a bit. The word that Putin used translates into recording from Russian. And so it's not a quote-unquote recording, but something that was recorded of the meeting. So apparently there was a Russian stenographer in the meeting to record for transcripts. And what they have are transcripts of the back and forth to make it easier for translation and easier to go back and forth from both sides to see what went through. And from those transcripts, not technically a recording, we could find out that Trump never discussed these issues that we believe he discussed. But the fact that it's Putin who's putting up the proof that this thing may not have happened is, yes, that much more disturbing. So those are the stories that we chatted about starting early yesterday and going to early today here for This is the Conversation. And we thank you so much for being a part of all the chit chat we've had in the past day and the past couple of weeks since we launched this podcast. It's been a labor of love, but it's definitely been a labor that has been taking a lot of time, a lot of effort to make happen. We're glad that you're a part of this. We ask you to stop by the website, thisistheconversation.com, and go to the sponsors page and check out some of our sponsors to help us get things or keep things going, keep things long, keep ourselves in business, if you will. Especially this week's key sponsor we're pushing is Cloud9 Living. Now, if you are a person who's got a lot of high hopes for a great bucket list and great adventures that you want to do for vacations, Cloud9 Living has some great and exotic places for you to go and things to do. And you can get a discount, 10% off a gift certificate by going to our website and clicking on the link at our sponsors page. Now, you can buy the gift certificate for that special someone and let them figure out what crazy thing they want to do on their own time, or you can buy that certificate for yourself and take care of your own crazy thing on your own time. It's all up to you, but you just have to go click to do it. This is theconversation.com/sponsors. Click on Cloud9 Living and see what they can do to help you live out your dreams. Find us online all over the place. This is conversation.com, our main website. On Twitter, th_conversation. On Facebook, we're also at This is a Conversation. For more of the projects I have going on, go to my main website, jclevelandpayne.net. This is the part where I thank you so much for being a part of all our talk and all our conversation, and hope that you are subscribed to our podcast so you don't miss it when it comes down automatically. And make sure you stop by again for another listen to the things we chatted about, and hopefully we chatted about with you from This is the Conversation.